My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest gifts given to us by the Almighty is the power to choose. Every day, from the moment we open our eyes until we lay our heads down to rest, we are faced with choices. Some are small, what to wear, what to eat, but others, they shape our lives, our relationships, and even our after. Now let me ask you something. Who makes these choices for you? Is it your neighbor, your friend, society? No, my brothers and sisters, it is you. And that's why you must take ownership of your life. You cannot keep blaming others for where you are. The direction of your life will be determined by the decisions you make. And if you're sincere, the Almighty will guide you. You choose whether to forgive or hold a grudge. You choose whether to be honest or to deceive. You choose whether to work hard or to make excuses. You even choose how you respond to hardship. Do you turn to the Almighty or do you complain and despair? Life will not always be easy, but the choice is yours. Will you allow the difficulty to break you or will you let it make you stronger? The most successful people aren't those who never fell. They are those who kept getting up, no matter how many times they stumbled. Look around you. Everyone is running. Some are chasing wealth, some fame, some power. But the real success lies in making choices that please your Creator. When you choose truth over falsehood, patience over anger, prayer over neglect, you are building a future that is not just good for this world, but far greater in the next. My brothers and sisters, no one said the right choice would be the easiest. In fact, most of the time it's the harder one, but it is always the most rewarding. This life is temporary, but the choices we make here echo into eternity. So before you act, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, will this bring me closer to the Almighty or further away? Will this bring peace to my heart or regret to my soul? You have a choice. Always use it wisely that every choice we make shapes our destiny. This is a powerful truth that we often overlook in the rush of our daily lives. Sometimes we act without thinking, and other times we knowingly choose what is easy over what is right. But the reality is that every single decision, no matter how small it may seem, plays a role in shaping the direction of our life. When we wake up in the morning, we choose whether to begin our day with gratitude and prayer or to start it with complaints and negativity. That small choice sets the tone for the rest of the day. Similarly, when faced with challenges, we choose how we respond. Some people choose patience, others choose frustration. Some choose to learn from their pain, others allow it to consume them. These reactions are not automatic, they are choices. And each one of them leaves a mark on our hearts, our minds, and our future. In life, people sometimes assume that their circumstances define their outcomes. But more often than not, it is their choices within those circumstances that truly shape their destiny. Two people can go through the exact same hardship. One comes out stronger and wiser, the other broken and bitter. What made the difference? It was the choices they made in the middle of the storm. Every act of kindness, every lie told, every prayer missed, every truth spoken, every step taken toward good or evil. It's all a chain of choices. And the Almighty has honored us with this responsibility. He gave us intellect, He gave us guidance, and He gave us the ability to choose. That's why we are accountable. That's why there is reward and punishment, because we are not robots. We are beings with will, beings who must choose our path. Look at the story of the first human, Adam. He was placed in paradise, given everything, but he made a choice. That choice had consequences. But even in that moment, the Almighty allowed for another choice to repent, to turn back, to seek forgiveness. And that became the turning point. The beauty of life is that even when we make the wrong choice, we are given the opportunity to make another one. And the second choice can be even more powerful than the first. Some people sit back and say, it's fate, it was written. Yes, the Almighty knows all things, but you are still responsible for the choices you make. The knowledge of the Almighty does not remove your responsibility. You still have to get up. You still have to decide what to do, how to behave, what to say, what to avoid. And that is where your destiny is being written through your choices. If you choose to surround yourself with people who are honest, faithful, and positive, your mindset and actions will likely follow. If you choose to spend your time with those who are careless with their words and actions, it becomes easier for you to slip into the same habits. Every moment you decide who you are becoming, and that decision is based on the choices you make again and again. Even in matters of faith, belief is a choice. Submitting to the Almighty, praying, being honest, staying away from what is wrong. These are choices. You are not forced. You are invited, encouraged, and guided. But at the end of the day, you must decide. That's why when we meet the Almighty, we will be asked not about what happened to us, but what we did, what we chose, what we stood for. There are people who were raised in difficulty, who had every excuse to go astray, but they chose righteousness. And there are others who were surrounded by every blessing, every opportunity to do good, but they chose otherwise. So don't ever think your environment guarantees your outcome. It's your choices that make the difference. Think about how much of your current life is a result of the decisions you made last month, last year, 5 years ago, where you live, who you are with, the peace in your heart, the knowledge you carry, the regrets you hold. It all came from a series of choices. And today you are making new ones. You are deciding where you'll be tomorrow, next year, and even in the hereafter. This understanding should not make you anxious. It should empower you. It should remind you that you are not stuck. You are not helpless. You are one decision away from changing your entire life. You are one sincere choice away from returning to the Almighty. One moment of courage can turn your darkness into light. One step in the right direction can open doors you never imagined. Right choices are often harder but more rewarding. This is a principle that runs through every part of life, yet it's something many people try to avoid. In our search for ease and comfort, we often forget that growth, strength, and true success lie in the paths that are less traveled, the ones that require sacrifice, patience, and perseverance. The right choice may not always be the most popular, it may not bring immediate comfort, and it may even cause short-term difficulty. But in the long run, it brings the kind of peace and fulfillment that nothing else can. Take a simple example, telling the truth. When you make a mistake and you're given the chance to hide it or lie about it, the easy choice would be to cover it up. No questions asked, no punishment, no embarrassment. But deep down, you know that lying is wrong. You know that it damages trust and chips away at your character. Choosing to be honest might expose you, it might bring consequences, and it might make you uncomfortable. But it will always be the right choice. It builds integrity, it earns respect, and most importantly, it pleases the Almighty. The same applies to relationships. Choosing to forgive someone who hurt you is hard. Your ego wants to stay angry. Your heart wants to keep distance. But holding on to grudges only keeps you in pain. Forgiveness is a heavy burden at first, but when you lift it, it frees your heart. The right choice isn't to stay bitter, even though bitterness may feel justified. The right choice is to release that weight, to heal, and to rise above the hurt. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you do. There's also the struggle between short-term pleasure and long-term benefit. Many things in life tempt us with quick gratification. Gossip, wealth gained through dishonesty, unlawful relationships, missed prayers for the sake of sleep. These things offer comfort now, but they lead to regret later. The right choice is often to resist, to say no to temptation, even when your whole body wants to say yes. That inner battle, that moment when your heart says, do what is easy, and your soul says, do what is right, that is where the real test lies. Think about prayer. Waking up for Fajr is not easy. Your bed is warm, your eyes are heavy, and everything around you says sleep. But when you get up, when you push yourself to perform that act of worship, there's a sweetness that follows. There's a blessing in your day, a sense of discipline that touches every part of your life. That choice, though difficult, brings reward beyond what you can measure. In society today, many people confuse comfort with happiness. They think if something is easy, it must be good. But ease is not the measure of right and wrong. The most meaningful achievements in life often come after the hardest struggles. A student who studies late into the night, fighting off distractions, staying focused, sacrificing sleep and leisure, is making the hard choice. But when success comes, that success is sweeter because it was earned. It came from discipline, from commitment, from doing what was right rather than what was easy. Even when it comes to emotions, the harder path is often the wiser one. Choosing to remain calm when provoked, to speak gently when angry, to walk away when your pride is challenged, these are not weak choices, they are powerful ones. For it requires strength of character, self-control, and a deep understanding of what really matters. The easy thing is to shout, to fight, to defend your ego. But the right thing is to protect your peace, to act with wisdom, and to maintain dignity. In a world full of shortcuts, the right choice will rarely be the quickest route. It demands patience, and sometimes it feels like you're the only one on that path. But remember, Reward is not just in what you gain at the end. It's in who you become along the way. Every time you choose right over wrong, you build something inside of you. You build resilience, sincerity, humility, and trust in the Almighty. You grow in ways that people can't see, but the results are deep and lasting. People often ask why doing the right thing feels so hard. The answer is simple, because it requires you to rise above your lower self. It forces you to think beyond your desires and look towards something greater. And that kind of elevation doesn't come without effort. When you make the right choice, especially when it's difficult, you're training your soul. You're aligning yourself with your values, and you're showing the Almighty that your faith is not just words, but action. You are responsible for your decisions. Own them. This is a truth that many people try to run from, but it catches up eventually. In life, it's easy to shift blame when things go wrong. We point fingers at people, at circumstances, at the system, at the past. But deep down, if we pause for a moment and look honestly at ourselves, we realize that many of the situations we find ourselves in are the result of our own choices. Taking responsibility is not about feeling guilty or ashamed. It's about owning the direction of your life, realizing that your decisions matter, and that change begins when you stop making excuses. The moment you take ownership of your choices, you begin to take control of your life. It means no longer saying, I had no choice, because the reality is in most cases you did. Maybe the options were difficult. Maybe one was painful and the other was risky, but you still had a say. Whether you chose to act or to remain silent, whether you stepped forward or backed away, those were still decisions, and those decisions had consequences. Some brought benefit, others brought harm, but all of them helped shape who you are right now. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Everyone does. We are human. We forget, we slip, we react emotionally. But what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck is the ability to say, yes, that was my choice. I accept it, and now I'll do better. This kind of mindset is empowering. It shifts you from being a victim of life to being a participant. It teaches you that while you can't always control what happens around you, you can always control how you respond. When you constantly blame others for your unhappiness or your failures, you give away your power. You give control of your life to someone else. But when you take responsibility, you regain that power. You say, if I made choices that brought me here, then I can make new choices to go somewhere better. That is strength. That is maturity. And that is the beginning of real transformation. It's easy to say, my parents didn't guide me, or my friends pressured me, or I didn't know any better. But the question is, what are you going to do now? Because once you realize that something isn't right, it becomes your duty to change. You can't keep using the past to justify the present. You can learn from it, you can heal from it, but you can't let it hold you down forever. At some point, you have to step up and take charge of your choices. Even in moments of weakness, when you chose something you shouldn't have, the right thing to do afterward is to admit it. Apologize if necessary. Seek forgiveness if needed. Learn from it and move forward. But don't deny it. Don't hide behind excuses, and don't shift the blame. There is honor in being accountable. There is strength in humility. And the Almighty sees the sincerity in your heart when you stand up and say, I was wrong, but I want to be right. Responsibility also means understanding the weight of your influence. Your choices don't just affect you, they affect those around you. A careless word can hurt someone deeply. A bad decision can damage trust. At the same time, a wise choice can uplift, protect, and guide. You are not isolated in your actions. You are part of a bigger picture, and your role in that picture matters. Some people wait for others to fix their lives. They think someone will come along and make everything better. But life doesn't work like that. Change doesn't come from the outside in. It starts from the inside out. It starts when you stop pointing fingers and start asking yourself, what can I do differently? What is within my control? How can I take a step, even a small one, in the right direction? The truth is, responsibility is not a burden, it's a gift. It means you are capable. It means you have been given intellect, strength, and freedom. It means the Almighty trusts you enough to choose. And with that trust comes accountability. You are not forced, you are not helpless, you are responsible. And once you recognize that, you begin to live with intention. You think before you speak. You plan before you act. You reflect before you decide. And that level of awareness can change everything. There is a sense of peace that comes with owning your choices. You stop running, you stop hiding, and you start growing. You no longer fear the truth because you are facing it. You are not perfect, but you are honest. And in that honesty, you find clarity. You find direction. You find the strength to move forward one responsible step at a time. Always choose what brings you closer to the Almighty. This is the foundation upon which a meaningful and successful life is built. Every decision, every action, and every word has the potential to either pull us closer to our Creator or push us further away. When you make choices with this awareness in your heart, you begin to see life differently. You're no longer just thinking about the moment. You're thinking about the impact it has on your soul, your purpose, and your journey toward the hereafter. It's not always obvious which path is best, especially in a world filled with distractions. Temptation comes in many forms: wealth, status, desires, and popularity. They may look appealing, but not everything that glitters is good for the soul. That's why you need to ask yourself in every situation, will this action bring me closer to the one who created me? Or will it distance me from His mercy and guidance? When your compass is set to seeking the pleasure of the Almighty, your decisions begin to reflect that clarity. Even in the small things, intention matters. A simple word of kindness, if done with sincerity, can elevate you. A quiet act of charity, done without seeking recognition, can bring you closer to the divine. On the other hand, chasing approval from people while ignoring what pleases the Almighty only leads to emptiness. People's praise is temporary, but the reward from your Creator is eternal. You must learn to prioritize the eternal over the temporary, even when the temporary is louder and more attractive. Choosing what brings you closer to the Almighty doesn't mean your life will be perfect or without struggle. In fact, sometimes it makes the path harder. There will be times when doing what's right means losing something you wanted. You may have to let go of people, opportunities, or habits that you once thought were important. But what you gain is far greater. Peace in your heart, purpose in your steps, and the pleasure of the one who controls all outcomes. This choice shows in how you speak, in how you treat others, and in how you react under pressure. Do you hold your tongue when anger rises? Do you lower your gaze when tempted? Do you pray even when tired? These are all moments where your soul is being tested. They may seem small, but they are doors to something much bigger. Each time you choose what pleases the Almighty, you are building your closeness to Him brick by brick. When you choose what brings you closer to the Almighty, it shapes your character. You become more patient, more forgiving, more humble. You begin to care less about the opinions of people and more about the state of your heart. You no longer chase worldly perfection, but spiritual sincerity. And that shift in focus changes everything. You find yourself letting go of things that used to stress you because you now measure success by how close you feel to your Lord, not by how much you own or how many people admire you. There will be times when the right choice isolates you. Others may not understand your decisions. They may question your values, mock your discipline, or laugh at your refusal to compromise. But if what you're doing brings you closer to the Almighty, stand firm. The reward of being sincere with your Creator is far greater than the acceptance of people who don't understand your journey. You weren't created to impress people. You were created to worship and submit to the one who gave you life. Closeness to the Almighty doesn't come from perfection. It comes from effort, from sincerity, from constantly turning back to Him. It comes from making the decision to rise after every fall, to repent after every mistake, to stay grateful even in hardship. These are the choices that make the heart strong. They polish the soul and attract mercy. They are the reasons why some people who have less outwardly are rich in peace and contentment. You must learn to recognize the signs that a decision is pulling you away from your Creator. If it makes you negligent in your prayer, if it brings arrogance into your heart, if it causes harm to others, then it's not worth it. No matter how successful or easy it seems, if it costs you your connection to the Almighty, it's a loss. And no matter how difficult or unpopular a choice may be, if it strengthens that connection, it's a gain. Life moves quickly, and with every passing moment, your book of deeds is being written. The choices you make today determine the pages that will be read tomorrow. If you live with the goal of getting closer to your Lord, every struggle becomes meaningful, every sacrifice becomes a source of reward, and every blessing becomes a reminder of His generosity. When you choose what brings you closer to Him, You are choosing clarity over confusion, light over darkness, and truth over illusion.